Welcome to An Unconventional Life, a podcast where we share stories about the crazy 1% out there who earned their doctoral degrees and then went on to use them in crazy, cool, unique, and unconventional ways. Here's your host, astrophysicist turned teacher, author, dissertation coach, and more, Dr. Russell Strickland.
Hi, Dr. Russell Strickland here, host of An Unconventional Life podcast, where I feature the stories of the unconventional 1% who not only earned their doctoral degrees, but went on to leverage them in strange, exciting, cool, and unconventional ways throughout their lives and their careers. Today, I have with me Dr. Demi Stevens, who is really just a jack of all trades. We have had wide-ranging conversations. She right now is working with folks with part of her own publishing company. And Dr. Stevens asked, have you ever told yourself that someday I'll write a book, but you don't know where to start? Or maybe you finished a draft, but you're afraid of getting rejection letters on your way to publishing. Well, as far as Dr. Stevens is concerned, today is your someday. She's an award-winning writing coach, author, editor, publisher, and the CEO of Year the Book Press. She has an elite artisanal, or it is an elite artisanal publishing house that specializes in one-on-one amazing author experiences. Her clients not only start writing the book of their dreams, but they complete and publish phenomenal books, award-winning books, best-selling books, life-altering books, even from people who never thought they could. Each of her clients is unique as a writer, and she guides them through this process one baby step at a time so that they can focus on what's most important. Their book. Demi lives in Glen Rock, Pennsylvania with her husband Todd and her two cats, and she loves to travel and loves the great outdoors. So Demi, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I love unconventional people. You're my favorite.
Well, I want to read real quick our little sponsor message here, and then we're going to get into it. This episode is brought to you by Dissertation Done. Dissertation Done is very much like Dr. Stevens' one-on-one hand-holding publishing house. We work on holding your hand throughout the dissertation process. We help you get from here to graduation in less time than you could have possibly imagined, so that you can get in, get out, graduate, and get your life back. So if you are studying people in a data-driven way, whether it's in education, business, nursing, psychology, or any other data-driven social science, reach out to us at Dissertation Done. You can go to dissertationdone.com and find out how we can help you get your dissertation done. So, Dr. Stevens, that actually leads me to my first question for you, which is your dissertation process. I remember we've had a conversation about this before, and it was a very interesting and unique topic, but also a very interesting and unique journey. Can you share that with us a little bit?
Sure. So I went from an undergrad, I was going to say underground. Maybe I should bury it in the past. From an undergrad in music, Bachelor of Arts degree from West Virginia University, which was my home state. Go Mountaineers. And did my master's, actually followed up with a second bachelor degree in flute performance from Capital University in Columbus, Ohio. So I moved west a little bit and then did my master's at Northwestern in Evanston, Illinois. That one was in music history. So I have a proud background in music rather than the English lit that someone might guess from my publishing company now, or in any sort of technology that might have to do with getting books published in the modern age. And then love brought me from Evanston back to Columbus, Ohio.
How long ago were you in Evanston?
Evanston was 1993 through 95.
Wow. So that was about the same time I had moved up to Chicago. I started my graduate work at the University of Chicago. So we were actually in the same town for at least a year or two.
That's a pretty small world. Very cool. If you were out on the lake at all, that's where you could find me a lot of afternoons.
Yeah, I was in a basement lab.
I remember
I got out
doing it.
occasionally. I saw the lake occasionally.
They let you out of the cage. I remember hearing a Car Talk episode where Click and Clack, the Tappan brothers, were called in by a lady who said, "Oh, my husband drives the Lakeshore Drive every day to and from to work, and I'm really concerned with him in winter. What kind of four-wheel drive does he need?" And the brothers replied, one of them replied, "Lady, your husband doesn't need four-wheel drive. What he needs is Metamucil." More fiber in his diet. Chicago winters are fun, but they're
Oh my
not like
goodness.
mountainous.
So the saying in Chicago is there are two seasons, winter and construction.
Yeah, that's it. We have that here in
And
Pennsylvania too.
and I remember Lakeshore Drive, for those who don't know, is this big, I don't even remember, probably 4 lanes going each way, 4 or 5 lanes going each
4 or
way.
5. Yeah.
Highway that goes right along the lake from the south side of Chicago all the way up to Evanston, which is the nearest northern suburb. And I remember going for 4th of July and watching the fireworks over the lake, and Lakeshore Drive would literally be stopped, parking lot, people sitting on the hoods and roofs of their cars watching the fireworks. And then after they all got back in and started their cars up again, it would still be stopped for probably 2 or 3 hours as people try to figure out how to get back home. But I enjoyed my time up there in Chicago. So Chicago to Pennsylvania, you were saying?
Chicago brought me back to Columbus, Ohio,
Ohio, okay.
where I did my doctoral degree at the Ohio State University.
Buckeyes.
Yes, indeed. So that was not the experience I'd envisioned, because I'd always put myself in my imagination finishing at Northwestern, where I had done my first graduate degree, but that was going to last longer than my engagement was going to tolerate. So I moved back to Columbus, where my fiance was in seminary there to be a Lutheran minister. And so while he was completing his degree, I did my doctoral classes for a flute performance DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts. And
awesome.
About the same time that he got his first call to serve at a congregation in Eastern Pennsylvania, I finished my coursework and was ABD, as they say. All but the D.
And then the fun started, right?
And then the fun starts, exactly.
So tell us a little bit about your actual dissertation experience. What was that process like for you?
So in the final semester of my coursework, one of our class assignments had us researching various people in the industry. And so I was a flute player and found it fascinating how you might be able to develop some sort of flutist family tree, looking at flute players and figure out who their teachers were and who their teachers' teachers were, and then building a sort of genealogy there, social genealogy anyway. Never mind the incest when the teachers and the students would marry in real life. That's always fun. But I found it fascinating to find that through my own set of teachers, I was connected to a gentleman named William Kincaid, who had been the principal flutist of the Philadelphia orchestra for going on 40 years or something like this. And that connection really was important to me. And I said, I wonder if other people have these same connections. And so what my dissertation set out to study was, just how important, how closely were we all connected. And through interviewing 9,000 flute players, primarily in the United States, I discovered that 95% of all American flutists can trace their genealogy through William Kincaid and Philadelphia and the Curtis Institute, where he taught, back through the Paris Conservatory, through his teachers and his teachers' teachers. And that was a unifying feature. So I established him as the father of the American Flute School.
That is very cool. I wonder how much, so the math geek in me starts to wonder about the network diagrams and everything that are going to be in that. And Neil deGrasse Tyson, I know, talks about this notion of the molecules of air that we breathe in and out and how they mix. And I forgot what the numbers are exactly, but it's something like 95% or more of every breath you take has a molecule in it that was breathed by whomever you might like to pick out of history. You're breathing in the air that
Wow.
George Washington breathed, or Jesus breathed, or the Buddha breathed. And it's really kind of cool to think about that connectedness. And in
Well, I'd
this
love to
case, you
have
had a
some
very
Buddha
influential
air,
person.
especially when I'm playing a piece of music that has a really long phrase.
Right.
I bet the Buddha could hold his breath a lot
A
longer
little
than
bit
me.
longer. So very cool. So after the, well, was there anything else that you figured that you thought was really important about the dissertation process that really stood out to you as you were going through that process?
Could be the fact that I gave birth to my son when it was just a
Life
couple
keeps
of months
going.
underway.
We're constantly telling our students life keeps going. It doesn't take a break for the dissertation. Um,
Nope, the child kicked in utero whenever I would play piccolo.
uh-huh.
Uh, Not fond of the piccolo at that point or any time after. But the dissertation, I remember having Joe in the little either the pack and play, or there was a swing
Yeah,
that would go back and forth while I was checking email from the various correspondents
right.
on the project and writing the actual dissertation and putting. You're right about the math involved in that. I used an Access database back in the late 1990s to pull the data together and
Yeah.
collate. Crazy.
I remember I had a somewhat similar experience that my wife and I, when we were starting our family, we had a number of false starts, which was, very trying on both of us. But
Okay.
when finally our son, who we like to joke about, was born 5 years past his due date, when finally that pregnancy took, and we were definitely sure that this was going to happen, I was looking at my dissertation and looking at her, and she got bigger each month, and my dissertation didn't necessarily. So I had to really focus on getting it done. And he was born in December, and I actually defended in April. So it was a big motivator to make sure that I got this thing finished up, because I knew life was really getting ready to change. So
I think my dissertation did grow about the same number of inches. It took about 2 years to write and was 900 some pages. So I tried to keep pace.
did a good job.
I'm just so glad it's over.
So after the dissertation, what came next? After you graduated, after you got that done, what was the next step for you?
My goal had always been to follow the path. I had at first wanted to teach public school is what took me into music.
Okay.
And when I did my clinical, what you call it, where you're in school doing supervisions and a
Right.
student teaching time, what I really felt drawn to then was to teach teachers. And so
Okay.
that's what prompted me to pursue the graduate education. And I had come out of school thinking I would teach in colleges, and that was my long-term goal. My my now ex-husband's first ministry calling in Lansdale, Pennsylvania, which is a northern suburb of Philadelphia, served a congregation of 5,600 members.
Wow.
That's a pretty large fishbowl to swim in, but we were very close to universities and colleges there that had music programs. And I taught at Delaware Valley College and enjoyed my, one of the classes I taught there was American Music History. So Rock for Jocks, we might have subtexted it. And just felt drawn to that. But a few years later, we moved to so that my child could grow up closer to extended family.
Mm-hmm.
So we came to a small, tiny little town called Glen Rock, Pennsylvania, which is about, 40 minutes south of Harrisburg, PA or something. And the opportunities for teaching college basically came down to waiting for someone to die,
Right.
which is not the avenue I wanted to use to get a job, let's say.
Well, it's something that they don't talk a whole lot about when you're being recruited into a traditional doctoral program. Some people will mention it, but the fact of the matter is, we hope that a graduate student's lifetime is about 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And you look at tenured professors, and they're there for something along the lines of 30, maybe 40 years, some of them. So you start doing the math.
They're serving 40 to life.
You see there's about as many graduate students as there are faculty in a lot of departments. So that there's not going to be a role for all of the students to replace those faculty. And that's true in all universities everywhere. So you can't just shuffle people around and make it work. Academia is tough.
True.
It's
And that's the situation I found myself in.
Yeah.
I wound up taking a job as a library director in a public library, Shrewsbury, Pennsylvania. We had a terrific staff and a great time there, but it wasn't musical at all.
Right.
I found myself calling more upon the musicology, the music history and research degree that I had done in Evanston, because I worked with a lot of books. I worked in the big library in downtown Chicago, where they handle all of the rare book collections. But astoundingly, I didn't need to dust Nora Roberts. I didn't need to put on gloves to reshelve the James Patterson books. It was kind of nice to be working with books that were in the popular knowledge and things like that. But as most people think about public libraries and their contribution, I think many remember early childhood education. That might be the first thing that pops to mind. Preschool, story time for toddlers, and that sort of thing. And here came me after 14 years of college, which was, more than the 12 I put in before that in public school. I thought, gosh, people taller than 4 feet might still want to learn something. And so I put together a list of all the things I still wanted to learn, and it included simple things like learning to play a card game or mahjong or quilting, but also like how to brew beer or cook with herbs. And so I reached out to people in our community who could be experts in these various fields, and twisted their arms to come in exchange for maybe landing some clients for things that they would teach, like how to set up your last will and testament. The funeral home director would come with that, or local lawyers. The funeral home director would say, if you've ever thought, I wouldn't be caught dead in this outfit, you should tell someone.
So we don't put you in that outfit.
So that we don't put you in that. Yeah. So it was a lot of joy there in getting to connect with other community members who had the same learning interests that I did. And so one day when a gentleman appeared in front of me who said, were you aware that you could, using a division of Amazon, publish your book professionally and have it printed and bound for less than a cup of Starbucks coffee? And I'm like, $5? Yeah, copy in your hand for less than $5. And I'm like, I don't believe you. So the next day at work, I researched it on the computer using my keen skills acquired from all those degrees, and discovered that what he was saying was right. In many cases, $3.65 plus shipping for a copy of my finished book, once I had the editing skills and the design skills to get the interior and the book cover put together. And the gears were whirring in my head. Okay, if I want to write a book, I wonder if there's anyone else out there in my community who would also love to learn to write a book. And so I sent out a call. I put flyers up everywhere. If you've ever thought of writing a book, today's your someday. Make this your year of the book. And I scheduled a series of courses to last one every other week, 26 courses over the time frame of a year, with the carrot dangling that said, if you have a completed tangible product, aka a book, at the end of this year, I'll create the launch gala for you and invite in a New York Times bestseller to headline for us. And that's what I did. But in the back of my mind, I expected there to be 2 or 3 whack jobs who would join on for this entire year,
Right.
What a huge commitment. Nothing shy of that than a dissertation, essentially. Write the book.
Yeah.
Write the book. But what astounded me was that at the organizational meeting, we had 57 people show up.
Wow.
Half
Amazing.
of them with a ream high paper that they had, brought their manuscript out of the guest room in the bottom drawer of the dresser that's been there for 15, 20 years, and blown the dust off of it to make it more presentable. And they came with the dream fully in mind, like, okay, sign me up. I'm ready. And so I had to bring my A game at that point.
Well, that's one of the things I talk to any student that's coming into dissertation done at the beginning of the process. Ask them kind of, what is your why? Why is it that you're trying to get your degree? And they always have a reason. There's something they want to do. And then unfortunately, we have to shut it down to get the dissertation done, but keep an eye on that. That's what we're getting to. You're going to be able to do that once you finish this.
Yeah.
So helping folks find their why and be able to not just, they know what it is, but to be able to express it and to achieve it, that's got to be super cool.
It's something else very different. Keeping your eye on the why requires that long-term thinking,
Right.
the 10,000 foot view
Right.
from above, but getting to the next step requires your feet on the ground.
This is another thing.
It's something else entirely. So I guess one of the joys of working in a group like that, well, I intended to work with small groups, and it wound up being several small groups to fit everyone in.
Right.
Is that we got to celebrate with each other along the way.
Yes.
So as people would finish chapters or sections of their draft, someone else was there to root them along. And you often don't have that in your dissertation.
Right.
If you're lucky like me, maybe you get a party at the end.
Yeah.
We invited everyone from our neighborhood, our friends, and probably half the congregation from the church. And we had a fun prize for that one. So everyone who attended, we gave ice cream and cake and all that, and they got to make fun of me for the day. But there was a contest. So it was take all the letters that are after Demi's name and create, an acronym. So I had my BA, I had a BM, I had an MM, and a DMA. And the winning entry was, badass bitch music major mama drives minivan around. Ooh, okay, they nailed that. And so I was sure looking at what's my why after this. Like, okay, well, minivan. Yeah.
That's one of the things that they teach you in psychology. Groups are good at coming up with ideas. So if you let a group play around with something, an idea will come out.
Yeah, well, I had the music major, but the minivan became more important at that part of life when we were dealing with the youth group at the church. So who knew? Who knew the why? But for the people in the writers group, the ability to celebrate along the way was huge, and to know that someone else was rooting for them, besides just being locked in a dank room writing the dissertation that you're not sure anyone's ever going to read anyway.
Right. Well, and that's one of the first things I tell all of our students. I ask them, do you know, well, not all of them, but I asked several of them, do you know how many people are going to read your dissertation after you've graduated? And I remember one time a person told me quite confidently, one. I said, are you talking about your mom?
She's not going to read it either.
And I said, your mom's not going to read your dissertation either. You're going to be polite. You're not going to quiz her on it. She's going to say she read it, and you guys are going to leave it at that.
And she's going to bake you a cake or brownie.
There you go. That's what mom.
She loves you very much, but not that much.
No. Because the thing that folks need to realize is that your dissertation is just a school project. It's a huge, big, hairy, scary school project, the biggest one you'll ever do. But that's where it ends for most people, unless you spend a lot of time, as some folks do, to get 900 pages and make sure that there's something there. But tell me a little bit about all the folks that you've worked with to this point with Year of the Book. Are there any fun or interesting stories that have come out of that? I know that there have been a lot of authors that have made a lot of strides going through this program with you.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I've worked with, I don't pride myself on ever being one of those folks who'll say I work with thousands and thousands of authors. I work with one person at a time.
Right.
And I've worked with now 400 writers who have, I've worked with 180 writers who've completed 400 books. So that's
Wow.
very, very different.
Very cool.
Many are now on their 6th or 7th book with me, because they unlocked something for themselves. They found this joy that they never imagined before. But most of the people are folks you wouldn't say were set out on a literary adventure. They're moms, their dads, their grandparents, they're sometimes young people, sometimes high schoolers even, or have worked with 2 elementary school students to publish their books.
Awesome.
They're quite gifted. A lot of stories. Probably, I guess when people normally ask me who's your most successful author, they might be expecting me to point to someone like a Kim Walsh Phillips, who is a New York Times bestselling author and works, in conjunction with big name people like Dan Kennedy, or another writer like Connie Sharon, who writes Scottish historical romances. I nickname the Kilt Burners and sell thousands of copies. But for me, honestly, the story I'll always call is my greatest success was working with a gentleman that first year when I was still at the library, before it became a business of its own right. This gentleman was a veteran of the Vietnam War. He, in one day's battle, his entire company was killed except for him and the guy he carried out. And he battled survivor's guilt for many, many, many years and wondered why was I left when all of my friends, colleagues were taken. And he decided that it was so that he could share their story of that ultimate sacrifice. And so he did all the research, contacted the people in his chain of command, found diagrams of where they had been placed in the rice paddies, how they were laid out the days leading up to that particular battle, and how it all went down, and put that together into a beautiful, beautiful narrative that he hoped would both honor his fallen comrades as well as serve as a way to connect for other veterans to read this. But the market he didn't expect, and the connections that he didn't anticipate before that, were how powerful his book would be for the spouses and children of the veterans whose dad, whose husband had never been able to talk about what happened for them there. And it opened up avenues for conversation, or for them just to have a window on what it was, even if that man still could not speak about what had happened. And we were just, I was so honored and thrilled to be part of that for him and to finally make that dream take place. But a couple of months after publication, we got word that he had gone to the shooting range one morning, and as he was paying on his way out, chatting at the desk with some friends, he had a massive heart attack and died.
Oh my gosh. Just
a couple of months after his book released. And I was so overcome with grief. And his friends from the writers group came with me. We went to Hanover, Pennsylvania, where he lived, to the funeral. Indeed, I tell you, we waited 2 hours in line in the parking lot just to make it through the reception line to get to the door of the funeral home to meet with his family. He was so beloved by his community and his family as well, and friends, and all he'd done after the war. But when we got to greet his sister and his wife at the front, I say, I have no words. I don't know what to say. And she says, Demi, you don't understand. You helped him do the one thing that he said he needed to do before he left this earth.
Yeah.
And in that moment, there were so few words still.
Yeah.
But I realized that's my success story. I want people to finish the dream that they knew they could do, or that they didn't realize that they could do.
Right.
That's what I love about this. I love the stories. I love the connections. I love bringing people together, and I love when readers find the story that they need to help them get through another day.
Yeah. And that's, for a lot of writers, that's what it's all about, is they have a message that they need to get out, and being able to share that message with the world is helpful for them internally, and can be very, very helpful for the audience that they find. So that's an amazing story.
Absolutely. So yeah, that was the moment I knew I was hooked, and it led to the creation of Year of the Book as a full-fledged business on its own. And so now I help around 30 to 40 authors each year, one-on-one. We don't meet in big groups or anything. It's all, I help you and coach you, cheerlead you through, talk you off the ledge, make great word choices, get professional cover design, and launch your book into the universe in a way it deserves.
And that's a big point. The thing you just buried there at the end is that a lot of folks feel like they can write or they can get their message out, but a manuscript, a Word document, is not the same thing as a book. So being able to turn that from something that is your heartfelt message into something with a cover and, table of contents and everything laid out so it looks like a book instead of, a manuscript is a huge thing that a lot of folks just would have a lot of trouble developing the skill set. So being able to have that there, even if you feel like you are a great writer, is invaluable.
Absolutely, because people will judge the interior of the book as much as they'll judge the cover. Right. If you don't have page numbers, or they fall on the page that was supposed to be blank, you shouldn't have a page number.
Right.
It should still count in the numbering system.
But, yeah. And there's all of these little details that you have to get right. So, of course, helping them, walking them through the process is amazing as well. I talk to our dissertation students all the time about, you need to have someone to both celebrate and commiserate with, because both happen in the process.
You are so right on that.
So, well, Demi, thank you so much, Dr. Stevens, for being here with us today. Tell us if someone does have a message and they want to be able to share that with the world, and they think that a book is the way to do that. What would you advise them to do? What should they do?
I would say, if that book is a dissertation, they need to reach out to you and Dissertation Done, and get your help so that they can get through it and enjoy the process as much as possible, but get to the other side.
The other side. Get it done.
Absolutely. Get her done. But if that book is something else beyond a dissertation, feel free to reach out to me. I would say your first step is probably, draft a table of contents. What scenes do you need to have in your book to tell this story in the biggest, best way? Think about whether it's nonfiction, or if you need to protect those who might not be so innocent after all. Perhaps you need to fictionalize this. Right. Figure out what scenes are in the book and where it might sit in a library or in a bookstore. What genre is it? What category does it fit? And if you're ready to write, or if you already have your manuscript and it's ready to edit, you can reach out to me. I'm Demi, Demi, at YOTB Press, like Year of the Book Press.com. And I'd be happy to work together. It'd be an honor to help you bring your book into the world.
Awesome. That is, I'm sure, going to be helpful for so many people, because the theme of our show here is the unconventional life. And I know so many folks are out there kind of living that unconventional life, and to be able to share their message with folks is a great gift that you can provide those people. So thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to thank Dr. Stevens once again for joining us here on an Unconventional Life podcast, once again, where we share the stories of the 1%, the unconventional 1%, who not only earn their doctoral degrees, but then go on to leverage them in strange, unusual, and unconventional ways. This episode has been brought to you again by Dissertation Done. If you are in the process of working on your dissertation, thinking you might be working on your dissertation sometime in the future, or supposed to be working on your dissertation but not actually getting much done, get in touch with us at dissertationdone.com and Dr. Demi Stevens at Year of the Book Press. So that was YOTBpress.com. Was that right, Dr. Stevens?
That's it. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you on the next episode.
This has been An Unconventional Life. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, subscribe now to keep getting inspirational stories of unconventional lives as soon as they're released. Until then, go out and live your best unconventional life.